I'm glad you're here. You've just stepped into halfway between zero, where ordinary places hide impossible secrets, and curiosity can get you trapped. Watch closely. I promise you'll notice things no one else sees. Don't blink. Stick around. You might not want to look away. Midnight on the Iron Bridge. The Iron Bridge had been abandoned for decades, yet travelers whispered it never slept. Shadows pooled along its rusted rails, curling as if alive, and the air tasted of metal and old fear. A lone car slowed at its edge, headlights piercing the black water below. The driver hesitated, noticing the boards groan beneath a wind that seemed to whisper names no one should remember. Halfway across, a figure emerged from the shadows, perfectly still, its presence bending the chill around it. The friends in the back seat froze, hearts hammering, their breath tight in the night air. They laughed nervously, masking unease, but the figure's hand rose slowly, a silent command that rooted their limbs in ice. "Holy shit," someone whispered, barely audible over the wind. A subtle vibration ran through the planks, tiny at first, then violent enough to shake the car. The radio flickered with static, and a voice spoke their own names before disappearing into silence. The figure moved closer, impossibly fast yet graceful, its eyes glinting with a faint ember glow. A cold wind carried whispers of rituals, chants from decades past that had never truly ended. One friend reached for a phone, but the screen blinked with a date from another era, then went dead. The other passengers stiffened, aware that the bridge itself seemed to stretch endlessly, bending reality. They stepped out, drawn by a curiosity they couldn't name. Each board creaked, carrying echoes of footsteps, long gone, and the air thickened with the scent of sulfur and burnt paper. Voices rose from the gorge, soft and seductive, promising answers and secrets, yet taunting with death hidden beneath. Each whisper curled into their ears, pulling memory and sanity with invisible fingers. A bottle clinked against the metal, louder than the world should allow. Tendrils of shadow rose along the railing, reaching like slow fingers for anyone who lingered too long. The figure tilted its head, the smallest movement packed with deliberate patience, as if it had waited lifetimes for this night and these intruders. Steps trembled as the friends tried to retreat, but the bridge seemed to loop behind them, but they walked in circles, the shadows folding reality until fear was a living companion. Kay's glimmered from the darkness, unblinking, impossibly wide smiles revealing blackened teeth. Kay's every glance back deepened unease, twisting night into nightmare. The wind carried a chant that pressed against skulls like water, wet and invasive, pulling each listener into histories they never lived, yet remembered. A sudden pulse shook the bridge. Planks writhed beneath their feet, as if the iron itself was breathing, alive with memory and hunger. "Fuck, move," one cried, panic raw in their voice. One friend screamed, and the sound was absorbed instantly, leaving only a cold echo that crawled across skin and bone. The figure advanced, shadows multiplying, filling the span with silent watchers, each one smiling with patient malice. Footsteps echoed behind them, perfectly timed to their own. Panic and curiosity collided, leaving them paralyzed with dread. The gorge seemed to stretch, water black as spilled ink, reflecting the impossible stars and a night that refused to end. Hands reached from the shadows, brushing shoulders, tugging at minds and hearts, teasing with the sensation of inevitable loss. Voices of the vanished swirled in the air, chanting names and promises, folding the present into the past until neither could be trusted. Time unraveled, each step a repetition, each breath a trap, the bridge stretching into infinity as if reality had been bent by the rituals of old. The figure waited at the far edge, arms raised, patient and eternal, inviting those who lingered too long to join the vanished. Some leaped, some froze, all felt the pull of a presence older than memory, a hunger that did not speak but consumed. When dawn arrived, the bridge stood empty. Its footprints ended abruptly. Whispers clung to the air, and the night claimed its victims in silence. The town told stories, hushed warnings of the Iron Bridge, a place that tested curiosity against fear, where one wrong gaze could last a lifetime. Survivors spoke only in dreams, the bridge appearing nightly, the figure waiting with the same silent patience, smiling in ways no human should. The river below held secrets in its dark mouth, old rituals and vanished bodies, and a hunger that the bridge passed on to anyone who dared approach. No one truly knew when it would claim the next visitor, but those who approached after midnight always felt it, the pull, the stare, the whispers that promised nothing but fear. And if you wander near its rusted rails, remember the stories, the vanished, and the patient figure waiting for eyes to curious. You might not walk away, but you can subscribe to uncover more secrets that the night doesn't want told. The man who lived between shadows. T first noticed the shadow under his bed moving on its own. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, until it winked. In the kitchen, his coffee cup tipped itself slightly, as if nudged by something invisible. The shadow lingered longer than it should, watching him sip. On the living room wall, every shadow stretched too far, reaching toward corners that had no light. He blinked, and one seemed to step forward. He laughed nervously, telling himself he was imagining things. But the mirror reflected movements he hadn't made, gestures that weren't his own. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms. When he followed, the sound led him nowhere, yet each time he returned, the shadows had rearranged themselves. A whisper curled in his ear. "You're late." No one was there. His pulse spiked, but curiosity held him frozen. At night, he noticed other shadows moving too fast, faster than humans could move. They paused, watching, waiting for him to sleep. He tried covering mirrors, unplugging lamps, but shadows persisted. Shifting, leaning, pressing into the corners of the rooms with impossible angles. His friends laughed when he described it. "Maybe you need sleep," they said. But even in daylight, the shadows lingered, stubborn and patient. One shadow began to mimic him with slight delay. Every blink, every breath, every frown mirrored but just off, wrong enough to make his skin crawl. He woke to a scraping sound at the bedroom door. The shadow under his bed was standing upright, waiting for him to notice. When he turned on the light, the shadow froze. When the reflection of the window, it moved behind him, smiling. He tried leaving the apartment, but in the hallway, shadows blocked his path, stretching across the walls like liquid, forming grins that weren't human. Even outside, shadows lingered. Trees, lampposts, strangers walking past each. One cast a shape slightly wrong, waiting, watching, following with patience that chilled him. The whispers grew, names, threats, secrets he didn't know he knew. The air vibrated with something alive, pressing against his mind with invisible hands. He tried talking to the shadows, asking questions. A single word returned, "Soon." It wasn't his voice. It never had been. In mirrors, shadows multiplied. Some stepped out, hovering briefly before melting back into darkness, leaving him dizzy, questioning what was real. He began seeing them between blinks, edges of his vision that caught movement, figures breathing just out of focus. Sleep became impossible. He lay awake as shadows slid across the ceiling, whispering, laughing softly, playing a game he didn't understand but could not escape. One night, he saw a shadow exit the wall, standing in his room fully formed, tall, faceless, waiting. It pointed at him. Every instinct screamed to run, but his body refused, paralyzed by the certainty that looking away would be fatal. The whisper returned, louder this time. It's time. The room bent, walls elongating, corners stretching like the shadows themselves were breathing. He stumbled to the door, but his shadow was gone from the floor. Something had replaced it, taller, darker, moving independently. Outside the window, other shadows gathered, forming a congregation of impossible angles, waiting for him to step into their fold. Every reflection now showed too many shadows, each one mimicking him, each one patient, alive, waiting for the moment to step fully into his life. He ran, but the shadows moved faster, closing gaps in seconds that felt like hours. He could hear a soft laughter rising with each heartbeat. The apartment door slammed shut behind him. Adriana, he spun around. In the flickering streetlight, a shadow moved into him, merging with his own. He screamed, but no sound left his mouth. Only darkness answered. Every shadow in the city seemed to pause, then drift toward him, patient and eternal. Eternal. When they left, the apartment remained empty. Mirrors reflected only darkness, yet sometimes, just sometimes, a shape moved, watching, waiting. If you think you've seen strange things, remember. Shadows don't just follow, they live between moments, and curiosity can be fatal. And if you want to see more stories that blur the line between real and unreal, hit subscribe. The Dollmaker's reflection. The first time she saw the doll, it was in the reflection of her bedroom mirror, sitting on the floor where she knew it hadn't been. She whispered, "What the hell?" It wasn't human, but its eyes were too aware, too patient, following every twitch of her fingers as she tried to touch it through the glass. The next morning, the doll was gone. Her door was locked. The reflection remained, grinning wider than she remembered, waiting. She heard faint scratching at night, coming from behind the walls, soft, deliberate, like nails tracing the shape of something unseen. A neighbor's kid warned her, voice trembling, "Don't make it mad." She laughed, nervously, but the sound felt hollow in the empty apartment. Mirrors in the hallway began to warp, stretching her reflection unnaturally. Shadows moved on their own, forming angles she hadn't cast, twisting behind her. Every time she turned, the doll appeared closer, sometimes holding an object it had never had: a hairpin, a cracked coin, a fingernail. She tried leaving. The elevator doors refused to open. The stairwell spiraled longer than it should, twisting impossibly, leading her always back to the apartment. Her phone glitched, showing images she hadn't taken. The doll in the kitchen, the doll on the balcony, the doll holding a knife that wasn't real. Yet, the scratching grew louder. Words formed in dust on the floor. "Look at me." She did, and the doll blinked, perfectly in sync with her. Her reflection in the mirror moved slightly ahead of her body, smirking, tilting its head in ways she couldn't imitate. A gust of wind slammed the windows shut. The room darkened. The doll was on her bed now, smiling like it had been there all along. She backed into a corner, heart hammering. Reflection whispered softly, "We've been waiting for you." Every night, the scratching moved closer. The walls themselves seemed to bend, breathing, reshaping the apartment to contain her. Her friends called. She answered, but their voices sounded warped, distorted, overlapping with whispers she couldn't understand. Objects floated around the room, now books, cups, even her own shoes spinning gently, as though the air itself was alive. The doll's eyes glowed faintly red in the dark. When she blinked, it had moved. When she turned away, it had multiplied. She tried burning the mirrors, smashing glass into shards, but every reflection remained, showing her face stretched, grinning, watching. The scratching became tapping. The tapping became knocking. Something heavy pressed against the door, outside, then inside, then everywhere at once. The lights flickered violently, shadows swallowing corners of the room. She whispered, "What the hell is happening?" Talls answered, silently, in their stillness. A soft laugh rose from the walls, high-pitched, melodic, unnatural. She realized it came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Her reflection moved first, the doll followed. Slowly, impossibly, her shadow stepped out of the floor, tall and elongated, grinning like the others. The apartment was no longer familiar. The hallway looped endlessly. The ceiling stretched into darkness. Every exit folded back to her bedroom. She tried screaming. No sound came. Her mouth moved, but only the whisper of the dolls filled the air. They surrounded her now, standing impossibly close, mirrors showing dozens, hundreds of versions of herself staring, all waiting, patient, relentless. A sudden silence fell. She blinked. The doll was on her shoulder, small, warm, whispering. Finally, "You're ready." The reflection leaned forward, smiling wider, mouth stretching impossibly. "It's your turn to stay." Her vision blurred. The room collapsed. The dolls multiplied. The mirrors closed in. She felt herself falling into darkness, into countless reflections. By morning, the apartment was silent. Everything looked normal, pristine, yet in every reflection, something waited, patient, smiling, and ready for the next visitor. If you think curiosity is harmless, remember, some reflections aren't just mirrors, they're waiting. And the next time you check, you might not be alone. Hit subscribe to uncover more stories lurking just beyond the light. The elevator that forgot me. The elevator opened on the wrong floor again. She swore she had pressed 3, but the numbers above glowed 7. She whispered, "What the hell is going on?" The hallway was empty, unnervingly quiet. Doors stretched longer than she remembered, some warped, others slightly off-kilter, like they weren't part of the building anymore. A soft hum followed her. She turned. Nothing. The lights flickered. A shadow moved. Almost human. Almost wrong. Just at the edge of vision. She tried the elevator. The buttons rearranged themselves. Floors she didn't recognize appeared, glowing faintly in red. Panic hit her chest. Footsteps echoed behind her, but when she turned, no one was there. Just her reflection in a mirror, except her reflection blinked a second too late. The elevator doors opened mid-floor, revealing a stairwell that seemed impossibly deep. She stepped in. Every step stretched longer, as if gravity had forgotten her. Whispers came from the walls, fragmented sentences, names she didn't recognize. Laughing, crying, pleading. She pressed the stairs railing. It felt cold, alive, almost pulsing. A door appeared out of nowhere. She opened it. Inside, an empty apartment, but the furniture moved slightly when she blinked. A chair faced the wrong way. She called for help. Her phone showed static. Then the screen displayed a message. "You shouldn't have come here." Her pulse spiked, adrenaline screaming. The elevator chimed. It wasn't where it should have been. The door slid open slowly. She could see herself inside, smiling, waving, but her real face twisted in fear. She ran, but the hallway twisted again, bending, lengthening, repeating itself. Every reflection she passed showed her closer to some impossible truth. A hand brushed her shoulder. Not human, cold, with fingers too long. She spun. Nothing. just the sound of her own heartbeat racing. The elevator moved without her. Each floor she passed looked like an older version of the building. Peeling paint, strange stains, whispers that sounded like screams. She tried pressing the buttons, but numbers shifted, blinking out of sequence. Floor 7 became 13, then 0, then 22, each time closer to some unseen end. A flicker of light revealed figures standing silently at the hall's end. They had her face, her expressions, but their eyes were hollow. The elevator doors opened behind her. The reflection inside grinned wider, stepping out before her real self could react. She tried running back, but the stairs looped endlessly, spiraling impossibly into darkness. The whispers grew louder, chanting her name, counting down. A floor appeared that didn't exist. 33. The door slid open to a room filled with mirrors, all showing her, each one slightly different, each one smiling. The figures in the reflections moved independently, sometimes ahead of her, sometimes behind. Always watching, always waiting, she screamed. No sound came. The echoes in the hallway were all wrong, delayed, twisted, mocking her terror. The shadow of herself stepped out of the largest mirror. She froze. "It's your turn now," it whispered, a smile stretching impossibly wide. The lights went out. The whispers stopped. Silence pressed against her ears, suffocating, and then a faint hum, like the building itself breathing. When the elevator finally returned, it was empty. Her reflection stayed behind in the mirror, waving, patient, waiting for the next time curiosity brought someone too close. The lobby looked normal. No one seemed to notice anything. But she knew somewhere in the building, someone was living between floors, and it was hungry for her next mistake. She fled the building, but in the reflection of every window, every car, every polished surface, she saw it, herself, smiling, still in the elevator, waiting. If you think elevators are safe, remember, some doors open to places that shouldn't exist, and curiosity can trap you forever. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this, where the ordinary is never really safe.